Welcome to the sixth episode of the Istanbul 2009 Recaps from Reality TV Warriors. My name's Michael Harmstone, and joining me as always is the Canadian who we asked to swear on his parents' Maserati every time he lies to us, Logan Saunders.
Good afternoon.
And the guy who spends most of his evenings being chased by a strange man, David Bindley.
Good morning.
Good morning. Predictable intro, I'm sure.
Yep, just check the photo I've just sent you.
Pieter Jan, I'm looking for 4 people who don't mind being chased by a strange man. I volunteer as tribute. If this isn't my intro for this episode, I'll be very disappointed in Michael. You are welcome. And I would like to start with an admission, because we recorded Belkia last night and we were joking before we started recording about how do separate documents for each of my podcast notes and how that's weird to you guys because you have one big doc, and we always joke about have you scrolled to the top of your document? I realized when I came to watch this episode this afternoon that I had actually accidentally overwritten the previous week's notes when I did last week's notes. So I was searching for episode 5's notes for a good 10 or 20 minutes on my laptop and on my computer and on my drive and everything, because I could not find them for the life.
Well, that was dumb.
Yeah, turns out I overwrote the episode 4 ones with the episode 5 ones and didn't decide to rename them because I'm a moron. So normal service has been resumed now. This is actually my episode 6 notes, and I have scrolled to the top, and I've got a new doc for them just to make sure.
Okay.
I think we've teased the Chariot Challenge for years as well. This is another one of those episodes that we have teased for a while.
Yeah, I think it probably works better without the subtitles, but it's a chariot race. This is the coolest thing they've ever done.
Yeah.
Even now, they have not topped this, really.
By a considerable margin at that as well.
Yeah. I don't even care that the challenge is not great, because it's a fucking chariot race.
Yeah. Around an old Roman hippodrome.
Yeah.
You can't get any cooler than that. And bear in mind, a week before this, they would have been in cold, rainy Belfast in a random warehouse looking for the remnants of the Titanic.
Yeah, chariot race around the Titanic warehouse.
I mean, it's basically a straight line from drop a ball in a field to this.
7 days before this, they would have been negotiating for tapetos. Now they're racing a chariot around a fucking hippodrome.
In Jordan.
In Jordan, yeah.
At least they didn't have to put their undies on the top of a double-decker bus while they were going around Amman.
Very true.
I think that gets you arrested in Amman.
They wouldn't have got nearly as damp, though, the undies, compared to Belfast.
No.
There's nothing more to say about drying underwear on the top of a double-decker bus, I don't think.
There are a lot of implications there, but yes, go ahead.
So previously, the remaining 7 candidates played the laser game ! Before following the Crusaders to a land they didn't actually go to, Jordan. Once there, they were greeted by a local custom in the form of having to identify hooker flavours. Before playing a game of Goose to win an exemption, Dennis was victorious, while Faraukia became the 4th person sent packing. And Pieter Jan returns to his obsession every year with gender, saying that 4 men and 2 women remain. Each of them will get a unique opportunity in this episode, a private chat with their mole.
Is it really unique if all 6 of them get it?
No. In summary, nah.
Yeah, why does every Vidim host do this? 4 men are left, 2 women are left, 3 men are left, 3 women are left, 4 women, 2 men, 5 men.
I know every time we've done a Historians season, we have joked about this at some point. The host will just go, "Oh my god, did you see everyone's genitals?"
Did you see the underwear that they put on top of the double-decker bus?
I'm not sure we can get away with doing an old Vidim season without someone going, oh, look, there's women left. There's women on this season.
There are more men than women. Oh, wait, no. Now there are more women than men. And the thing is that we just had the Cambodia season, and yes, there was a bit more. It was a bit more one way than the other by the end of the season, but it was still it was still mentioned every episode how many men and how many women were left. It's 26 years later. It's still their main topic at the beginning of each episode. It's they have to acknowledge what the gender balance is right after the opening credits, and then we just move onwards with the rest of the episode.
It's like they're apologizing for not going to Rio and doing a Brazilian waxing challenge every season at this point.
Well, If they did that, there would have to be an exemption on offer for anyone who punched their masseur in the face.
Hmm.
So it's day 8 in Amman, and they are checking into another hotel. And Anique laments Frauke leaving, and that the women are a minority. Because in case you didn't get it from Pieter Jan's intro, the women are not the majority here.
No. How is it only day 8 at this point?
This must have been a very short filming block, comparatively.
Yeah.
Because I know we take the piss out of them for doing like 17 days on Vidum. And there have been like 20 odd day seasons of Vidum. But this season must end within like 14 days.
Yeah.
It's a very packed schedule.
And they played the Drazen family music theme for 24 for like the 10th time in the past couple of seasons leading up to this. Ever since the Vidum Thailand season, they always play as much music from the 24 soundtrack as possible, just because it was the mid to late 2000s when 24 was pretty much the most popular American drama at the time.
Yeah, I know I've said it before, but 24 was a bit of a cultural touch point at the time. It was basically that and Dexter probably at the time, and that was it.
And the Dexter music was played during the roll the ball down the hill into the hay.
Yes, it was.
2009, even like Lost and Desperate Housewives would have been past their peak at this point.
Yeah, because Lost was like 2004, I want to say, when that was really big. Because I remember it being a big thing in the UK that Channel 4 had got the next day broadcast rights, which never happens for anything, especially not at the time.
Yeah, 24 would have been on their 2009. They would have been on like their second to last season. Dexter would have been on season 3 by 2009,
which was its peak, I believe.
Yeah, season 2 or season 3. Yeah.
Full disclosure: I've seen an episode and a half of Dexter, and I've only just started watching it. I know kind of what happens. I know certain things that happen, but yeah, I've literally only just started watching Dexter, so that's how I know when it was. Because it's just appeared on UK Netflix.
Spoilers, he kills people.
I was about to say, I was trying to find a clever way to say that. Someone dies.
God damn it, I don't need to watch now.
Oh, man.
Thank you for saving me hundreds of hours of my time.
That's all right.
Vivienne says that it was a wake-up call, not that Dexter was on at the time, but that the women are still in a minority. They are playing a game and need to stay sharp. 3 of them will be in the finale, and one of those will be the mole. Dennis says Frauke was on John and he never brings anybody in, and the women make a pact to trick Sebastiaan by getting him to put everything on Vivienne.
Yeah, I like how Anik says, we're going to eliminate a guy from this. And I'm thinking, you can't vote people out in Vidum. That's a different show. But the closest you can get to that is tricking somebody into putting their quiz questions onto somebody else.
Yeah. And you've already left Northern Ireland, so you can't go across that bridge again.
Yeah. Is Sebastiaan the one of these 4 that you would try and take out first?
No, because he comes off as a complete idiot so far.
Yeah. I feel like even though I went into watching this episode obviously knowing that Sebastiaan went in 6th place, I feel like Sebastian's the one you would keep around because he's enthusiastic. He's blatantly not the mole and he brings money in. And also, you can beat him at the end.
Yeah, like Sebastiaan, for as much as he's kind of a jerk and like all of that sort of stuff, I think he genuinely tried to make money a lot of the time. Where, people like Dennis and John, not so much. Rick sort of is off to the side a little bit. But I think Sebastiaan is probably the most helpful out of these 4.
I would say there's one instance where he doesn't help make money for the group.
I'd certainly say, getting to the end of the episode, that Sebastiaan is the first kind of big exit of the season. He's the first one where you can feel the weight of that exit, compared to the people who we've seen go so far, where everyone spends the start of the next episode going, "Oh my god, I can't believe they've gone, I'm crying tears." But as a viewer, they didn't really make that much impact. Paula maybe did of the 4, but Sebastiaan is the first kind of big hitter, I would say, to go this season. And he came across quite well in his interview with Pieter Jan at the end, I would say.
Yeah. Like, he's definitely a net positive for the season.
Yeah. But I don't think you target Sebastiaan unless you think he's easy pickings and you just want to get to Final 5 as a pair so that you don't go down to a full 1 minority.
Yeah.
But I would say, given what we see in this episode about Dennis being hyped up as a major threat, you probably target Dennis out of everyone because he plays selfishly and also he's a big threat, according to the girls. So Pieter Jan meets them at Ajlone Castle on day 9. He says a lot of blood has been shed here, but here their road to the finale will begin. They will get the chance to look deep into their mole's eyes. Each of them has to follow a path of polaroids leading to clips from previous seasons in the form of projections. They can also see each other's intake videos on TV screens, and at the top of a projection of Pieter Jan tells them that their mole is waiting around the corner and they can ask them 3 questions.
What's your favorite color?
I was so confused by what the Polaroids were actually there for.
Yeah.
Because I got, we got a confessional near the start saying they were branching off, but we didn't really see anyone get lost or anything. It was just sort of like, well, technically this room is off to the side, but then you've got to come back out anyway, so it's basically the same route for everybody. Unless there was a hidden clue in the castle that we didn't see, but I don't know. If there was, they usually point that out at the end.
I think that sort of a setup kind of works better in an anniversary season. It
Yeah.
felt like they were doing this sort of a challenge to celebrate Vidum still being on air and all that sort of stuff. But if you did it the year after, you've got 10 seasons, you can really ham up that this is a 10th anniversary season and all that sort of stuff. Whereas doing it after 9 is just a bit weird.
Yeah. I mean, it's too expensive to fly Angela and Carol out to Jordan.
Yeah, good point.
Fast forward 1 season later. I don't know, guys. Yeah, Jordan's too expensive, but you know,
Japan, that's a cheap
Japan.
country.
Yeah.
I mean, it must be cheap. Amazing Race keeps going back there.
Maybe there's some sort of agreement because of the Dutch village and stuff.
I think there was probably heavy agreement from the Japanese tourist board to get Vidum to go there, Saunders.
Yeah.
So Rick's choice is Anique, but she's sat in front of a one-way mirror and the microphone distorts his voice to hide who suspects her. He asks her why she bought a Hello magazine at Heathrow. It had an article about the Queen of Jordan in, and he thinks that might have been a clue. And she thought that it was John who asked her questions.
I wish they would have really had fun with the distorted voice and changed it to, I don't know, the voice of Ash Ketchum in the original Pokemon anime.
What they should have done is just put it all through the text-to-speech that we use for the mole's voice. And just this year have a weird New Zealand woman voice going, why did you buy a Hello magazine? As more South African, but you know what I mean.
or David Cross's version of a British accent.
I also love how we spent a good 5 minutes last week going, oh, I wonder what the flight route they took to Jordan was, and then they just blatantly reveal it using Heathrow signs this time. Massive waste of time on my part. Thanks, show.
You're welcome.
John also picked Anique in the last test. He says he wants to know how the mole got a red screen in episode 2, and she says that she likes having 2 people suspect her. Sebastiaan tries to fill in the missing portrait, but nothing happens. He's expecting the voice of God. Oh.
The mole, because you completed this, you will now know the identity of the mole.
It is Sebastiaan.
Yeah.
I love that they all stop at the room with the pre-season interview clips, which won't tell them anything because of how the mole was chosen this year.
Yeah, because none of them were the mole at that point.
Yeah.
Why did you buy a Hello magazine at the airport?
I just wanted to do the crossword.
Can you imagine if that's the response from your suspected mole? And Anique just breaks down in tears?
At the risk of starting a feud with a British tabloid magazine here, do you really think that Hello magazine is highbrow enough to have a crossword that isn't cat? Feline animal, 3 letters. And as much as I joke about that, I believe The Sun has actually had that as a crossword clue before.
2 across. Golden Girls. She old. Betty White.
So Rick is waiting around the corner for Sebastiaan, and he asks if he sleeps in a room with the mole, and asks him to swear in his Maserati that he isn't the mole.
His most prized, the thing, make him swear on the thing most dear to him. The unbreakable swear.
Yeah, your life, your mother's wife, your wife's life, your children's life, your Maserati.
The thing is, if you asked me to guess who out of the 10 people in this cast was the most likely to have a Maserati, I would have picked Rick.
Oh yeah,
He strikes me as like peak midlife crisis Maserati owner. Dennis is the fourth to take the path, and Rick is also waiting for him, and he's asked if he stole the money, and then if he's the mole. Anique is fifth, and she gets to ask John 3 questions. He's not surprised as he heard through the grapevine that people suspected him. She asks if it's hard to lie all the time, and he tells her that he's the mole, but he doesn't think that it's wise to always tell the truth. And she says it confirmed her suspicions. She is fully on John.
Mr. Bean?
Yeah,
Anik, you're suspecting Mr. Bean as the mole?
she
Yeah.
is.
Really?
Yep.
Vivienne is last in, and she also gets to ask John some questions. She asks him how he moled at the laser game, and he said that he didn't mole there. He tells her that he's not the mole, and she says that nothing changed in their mind, and he tells us that he had 2 goes and didn't tell the truth to every question.
Yeah, no one did, other than the Hello Magazine question, nobody wanted to do just a ridiculous, absurd throwaway question.
No, like the closest we get is Sebastiaan trying to fool Rick into thinking, it's one of the women asking him the question because he calls him hot or whatever it was. But I'm like, Vivienne and Anique are clearly horny for Dennis anyway. Like, Rick is not in that sort of demographic for them.
Yeah, he did. He should have tried hard and say, I am so wet for you, Rick. Do you swear on your Maserati that you're not the mole?
We also didn't see Anique or Vivienne say to John, John, you're so old, can you bleat?
And then Mr. Bean just sits there saying, well, I guess I know who asked this question. But yeah, it'd be funny just how ridiculous if somebody took it to such an extreme to pretend that somebody else was asking the questions. It's like Sebastiaan just doesn't know how to pretend to be Vivienne Anik. It was almost at the point of, I really like ribbons and ponies. Are you the mole? He'll never suspect it's me.
What you don't see is Vivienne asking John her third question, which was pick a number between 1 and 1,000, and then John answering 538.
On a scale of 1 to 100, how confident are you that you're not the mole?
I was just about to do that joke. Damn it, Saunders. So they then head back to Amman and check into another hotel, and Sebastiaan rescues the missing money from a sock in his crotch.
Oh, he's like the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
He might not be the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but he is full of fleas.
Yeah. And Pieter Jan tells us from a park that each candidate looked into the eyes of their mole. Rick, Anique, and John are the top suspects, but is the real mole amongst them? He then calls them over and tells them that they'll get to know Amman better in rush hour, and they must choose someone they want to spend an hour in a taxi with.
Before we move on, is that the worst Meet the Mole challenge ever? Like, it'd have to be close, surely. Because you don't get...
Yeah.
Nobody gets anything meaningful out of it. The questioning isn't any more intricate than, like, a standard hotel room scene that they use as filler between challenges. And, like, the setting is nice, but it doesn't add anything.
I think it also stands out because this episode has a maximum prize of €3,500.
Yeah.
That has to be one of the lowest value Vidum episodes ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can do a Meet the Mole challenge with a big set piece. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of the Japan one. I'm also a big fan of the South Africa one, the original South Africa one, because that is just really atmospheric. But I don't think this is a very good Meet the Mole challenge.
No.
But it's an interesting one, nevertheless.
Hmm.
Because I think it's more of a challenge to give us an insight into how people are thinking halfway through the season, rather than an insight into who they think the mole is.
Yeah.
So as a mole challenge, I'm not sure how useful it is, but as a sort of personality segment rather than a challenge, I think it kind of does its job.
Yeah. I think it might have been a little bit better if people, like, explicitly got to pick who they questioned, because, like, they used, who you put as the mole in the last test to do this. But, like, these people are still splitting at this point. So there's, like, a fairly decent chance that the person they picked is not actually their mole suspect.
Yeah. And also, there's a huge risk that if so many people are on the same person, that this challenge just kind of implodes.
Yeah.
Because it's not a meet the mole challenge, it's a meet your mole challenge. And I think there is a difference.
Yeah.
Because in meet the mole challenges, it
Hmm.
requires the mole to be a very active presence and do stuff to kind of mess with everyone. Whereas in a meet your mole challenge, it is just the same as any other bit of filler that we get in these episodes. Not that there is as much in the earlier episodes because it's a tight 50-minute episode.
Hmm.
Yeah, it just wasn't the most interesting one.
Yeah.
So each pair, John and Anik, Vivienne and Sebastiaan, and Dennis and Rick, get 3 photos and must stand in the spot where the photographers did when they took the picture. At each location is someone with money, and they get 20 dinar for the taxi, and one of the pictures also details the finish line. Vivienne and Sebastiaan go to the bridge first, but it's a mistake as they leave the city. Dennis has decided that Rick wasn't the mole, and this challenge confirmed it given how well that they worked together.
This is one of the closest to it just being an outright final leg copy of The Amazing Race.
Well, what was your name for this challenge, Bindles? Because I was looking at it earlier.
I don't even remember. I feel like it would have been something like the Amazing Race or something.
It was
Yeah, that's
indeed
what
the Manzing race.
that's what crossed my mind too. Like half a second before was a Monzing.
Yeah.
It'd have to be a pun.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did an explicit Amazing Race pun for this challenge.
Yeah. And to be fair, they can deliver to the first 2 restaurants in whichever order they want, but they do have to go to the Majestic Cafe last.
Call back.
I'm honestly not sure that this challenge is very interesting for us to talk about, but it's a very good challenge.
Yeah, like it's a great challenge. I think there's the one downside is it's probably not really easy for them all to do anything.
Yeah.
Which I guess means it's technically not good for this show, but like there's still enough going on here that this is a really fun character challenge. And that like there's you can mess up like the photos, you can go to the wrong side of the bridge, you can like do all of those sort of things. But I don't know. Firstly, I don't even remember if the mole sabotaged this one. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it turns up in the reunion.
I don't think they did because there aren't many sabotageable opportunities without really exposing yourself, I would say.
Yeah, like I think there's not a lot of opportunities to do much here, but it's a fun challenge that I'm not gonna say like was a bad idea to do.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of insight into the dynamics between the pairs too.
Yeah.
Or rather, you get insight into how much they trust each other inside the cab.
Yeah. Because we're still 2 years away from everyone being told to obviously trust nobody.
I did love John just sort of laughing when he realized his cab driver is stopping for petrol like he's on The Amazing Race.
Yeah.
Because, like, every season at that point, you used to get a cab driver stopping sort of every 2-3 episodes for petrol. And, like, they made a point of, like, showing it every single time it happened.
Anik and John obviously suspect each other.
Yeah.
But they have an absolute blast in this challenge, just messing with each other, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Anik voluntarily gets into a cab with a driver who doesn't speak English. And then they both ask what the price is for the cab. And the cab driver says yes so quickly that Mr. Bean just starts laughing, saying, yeah, given how quickly the driver agreed to the price, I think that means we're paying too much for it. The driver did not attempt to negotiate us down to a lower price at all.
Yeah. Out of these 6 people, who would you want to be as your partner if you were on The Amazing Race with one of them?
Oh, God. To win or to have fun?
Both.
I think Dennis is the obvious choice because he is by far the most competitive, intense person in this cast.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure he would be the fun choice.
No.
I would say either Mr. Bean or Anik would be the fun choice.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, Dennis if you want to win.
John would probably be the entertaining choice, I think. You would go out really early, but I think you'd have a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah. Like, I think Vivienne would be an interesting choice. I don't know whether she would be the best choice. I would probably go with Anik because, like, Anik combines maybe the like the entertaining side and the competent side a little bit better than John does, or a little bit better than Dennis does as well. I think she's probably the best of both worlds, but really, basically anyone except for Rick would probably be.
Well, you'd never be shown on screen if you were paired with Rick because he's so boring.
Yeah.
So, Vivienne and Sebastiaan are the first to reach the finish line at the Citadel. There's a strange man without an envelope there, and he takes the money off them in the form of Pieter Jan. John and Anik get their second envelope just as Rick and Dennis arrive at the Citadel, and they walk off the Citadel site but are spotted by the others and are shouted up with a minute left. They arrive with 10 seconds left, meaning the challenge was a complete success, earning them all €1,500 for that challenge.
So I'm just remembering Dennis and Rick just sort of randomly undressing mannequins.
Yeah. Well, they didn't listen to Pieter Jan's instructions because he said specifically there will be a person with an envelope there for you.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it was probably like the hardest one to find the person because like it was basically the only one with more than one person around. But even then, there's only like 4 or 5 people. Yes, it's harder than the one, basically under the bridge or wherever it was, where it's one person standing in the middle of a traffic island. But like, it's 5 people. It's not that hard to just go and ask everybody.
Are you a candelabra? Are you a candelabra? Are you a candelabra?
Also, more importantly, they're going to specifically pick someone who responds to them in English. So if you're surrounded by people who don't reply in English, that narrows it down quite significantly for you. So at dinner, they discuss who they met when meeting their mole. Anik is sure of one person who picked her, but not the other, letting slip that more than one person chose her, and Dennis jumps on it because he's very observant.
I also like during the challenge how Pieter Jan is still making fun of Sebastiaan about losing the money.
Oh yeah, he's not letting it go.
Yeah, like he has a go at them for that, and then you get the one line from Vivienne at the end where she's like, "Oh, of course John and Anik came in last. It just surprised me they had both of their pictures."
This is a very sarcastic season.
Yeah. Like I came into this season sort of expecting Dennis to be my favorite, but Vivienne and Anik are really having fun with this. And obviously Mr. Bean is Mr. Bean, which you can't hate.
Yeah, especially when Dennis starts the season just being a complete little bitch about his B&B accommodation. So they are then driven out of the city again on day 10 to Jerash. Pieter Jan tells them he's looking for 4 people who don't mind being chased by a strange man, and John's hand immediately shoots up. Dennis and Rick then volunteer, followed by Anik, when Pieter Jan essentially badgers one of the women to do that side of the task, so it's not that difficult. He says they will be stepping into the film Ben-Hur. Each of them will individually be in a horse-drawn chariot and see a solution to a puzzle which they must recreate. The others will be showing the solution, but they can only show it for a limited amount of time, and the person in the chariot will be chased by Ben-Hur. If he overtakes the chariot, the challenge will end. And while the chariot is being ridden, Vivienne and Sebastiaan must pull a bar to raise the puzzle off the ground.
I like how Ben-Hur sounds like a made-up movie from Arrested Development about Anne.
Ben-Hur?
Ben-Hur? Egg?
Again, this is a challenge that we cannot really do justice in an audio medium.
No.
It's an amazing challenge for them to have done.
Yeah, like I'm not even going to waste time asking where you would want to be in this challenge because it is obvious.
In the chariot.
Yeah, regardless of whether you're a mole or a candidate here, you do not volunteer to be in the baking sun of a Roman hippodrome pulling on a heavy bar compared to being driven in a chariot being chased by Ben-Hur. Vivienne and Sebastiaan completely missed out in this challenge.
Yeah. I wonder whether maybe like after the challenge they just sort of let them go around the hippodrome once just for fun.
You'd hope so. Like, this is one of the coolest things that anyone has been able to do in Vidder.
You know what we needed to see was Pieter Jan riding around in the chariot.
That would have immediately been the banner this week if that was it.
That they should have like done that for the intro instead of the long shots of them on the bus just sort of walking up to Pieter Jan. Just have him like come up in the chariot like he does with like the rusted out car at the start of El Salvador.
Yeah. Just have them be led up to the hippodrome and then see him in the distance just pelting towards them.
Yeah.
And then obviously kick sand in their faces because it's him.
just have him like ride on the hippodrome and then sort of just make a like jump off it while it turns around the corner.
Yeah.
Duck and roll. It's been her and Peter him.
So the puzzle ends up being the layout of the Roman city that used to be there. John boards the chariot next, and Ben-Hur is about half a lap behind him. And Rick sees that Anik has put a few things down and adds to them himself. Sebastiaan and Vivienne then only manage to pull the puzzle up halfway on their first attempt, and Dennis boards the chariot, and again, they only pull the puzzle up halfway.
I like how Rick finds discarded pieces on the ground. It's like, what is this? Survivor China?
Threw it on the ground!
Damn it, Jamie.
And each person only gets a couple of laps in the chariot, so once Dennis's go finishes, they only have to work on the puzzle and have to hope that it is correct. And Pieter Jan announces that time is up, and also is incredibly sarcastic about their efforts, earning them nothing of €2,000 for the challenge, €1,500 of 3,500 for the episode, and €10,450 of 73,750 for the season so far.
Pieter Jan is such a dick about that. Like,
Yeah.
He basically tells them, well, the nicest thing I can say is at least it looks pretty. Like, he refuses to give them partial credit for even remembering to put all of the pieces on the grid.
He basically says, I hope you had a nice time because your efforts were utter shite.
Yeah. He's like, my teenage son could have done better than this.
And he's in remedial classes. Oh, I love Sam.
Yeah, just looking at the grid. Aesthetically, it looks very pleasing. But in terms of the context of the challenge, the cast from season 1 would have done a better job than you guys did.
Sam would have just about put this puzzle together, and he has 10 years to do this.
Willie would have been able to put this together in 5 minutes. You guys had half an hour.
Willie Summers would have been able to put this together.
And he's been distracted by Logan shining sunlight off his binoculars. So before the test and execution, Dennis offers Vivienne a pact. He wants to know if John is still her mole. She says yes, and also Anik. He wanted to cross her off his list. And he says he just has to hope it's not Vivienne, because if it is, he has been completely fooled. It is time for the test. 20 questions about the identity and actions of the mole. Whoever knows least goes home, except for the mole who can never go home. Sebastiaan says Rick is still his number 1, but Anik is there too, and he's ruled everyone else out. Dennis says the mole shared a taxi with Anik. Vivienne says one of her moles hid behind a carriage and then didn't do anything. John was really into the game again and told Anik how well she was doing, but his 2 right parts of the puzzle don't matter if everything else is wrong. John says he still can't pick one person. He's split between Anik and Sebastiaan. Anik says the mole's team reached Pieter Jan last, and Rick says that it's still too early to go all in. He's spreading over John and Anik, and maybe 1 or 2 questions on Vivienne. Pieter Jan and his cool early 2000s shades await them, and he says that the further they get in the show, the harder it gets to say goodbye.
I was just thinking, like, when Vivienne and Dennis were talking, how before Dennis can ask anything, Vivienne makes him take off his glasses. I want eye contact.
It's etiquette. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're wearing sunglasses, even if it's sunny, and even if you're being blinded by the sunlight, you've still got to take your glasses off so that they can see your eyes.
Yeah. You just got to keep a hold on them so they don't disappear and then turn up 2 episodes later in Sebastian's balls.
In his sweaty sock pocket.
Sweaty.
Anik volunteers to have the first screen, and it's green, followed by Vivienne and Dennis and John.
During the quiz, too, Sebastiaan refers to Dennis as Dennis the Menace.
Yeah.
That nickname did not catch on in the episode because I believe this is the first and only time he's ever referred to as Dennis the Menace.
No. Well, I'm pretty sure this is the first and only time they've ever actually called it Meet the Mole on screen.
Yeah. And it wasn't a Meet the Mole challenge, it was Meet Your Mole. There's a difference.
I did laugh at sort of Pieter Jan doing the test and getting through the first couple normally, and then they all start just trolling him. It's like, he goes, Anik, Vivienne, Dennis, and then Dennis just goes, hi!
Who was the random contestant that thought that they were the mole? Was it Heise?
Possibly.
Yes.
So imagine if he had to do the Meet Your Mole challenge and he's just talking to himself. He's asking himself questions.
It was an actual mirror rather than a one-way one.
Or are you talking? Why are you interrupting me? Why are you interrupting me? I'm asking you who the mole is. No, I'm asking you who the mole is. Don't punch the glass, Heise. He's not a real person.
Stop interrupting yourself. Stop interrupting yourself.
I suppose the good news is at least it was a one-way mirror where, like, if they did it during Oregon, it basically would have had to be like one of those prison phone booth things, and then they would have had to edit around that.
That would have been pretty cool, to be fair.
Hmm.
Like, doing this challenge, but in a decommissioned jail or something, would have actually been pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just Highs talking into the mirror. Stop suspecting yourself. Stop suspecting yourself.
So Rick's name is the last one typed in, and his screen is also green, sending Sebastiaan home. And he leaves them with the missing money too, giving them a new pot of €16,300 of 73,750 for the season so far.
The funny thing is, I don't think he even gives them the full amount back. Like, I think it was like 6,000 that went missing, but when he hands it over, he says, "Oh, it's €5,000."
I think off the top of my head it was 5,850.
Yeah.
I could probably double check in one of my broken notes, but I think they said it was 5,850.
Okay.
Rick had an interesting strategy on the quiz where he admits to saying he split his quiz between Mr. Bean and Anik with 1 or 2 questions on Vivienne. You don't see that too often when there's only 6 players left in the game, where you effectively put answers on 3 out of the other 5 people. That's typically discouraged.
And even John and Anik, because they were in the same pair for the taxi challenge, you're basically splitting on it just by picking that. Like that, I think one of the questions was, when did the taxi reach Pieter Jan?
Yeah, it was in what place did the team reach Pieter Jan? Or something, because that was what Anik answered on screen. I can confirm that it was 5850 that was missing, and 5850 is returned to the pot, because I double checked Wiki after this episode to make sure that I had the correct number. So yeah, it does go back up to 16,300, which is correct.
Okay.
Didn't even keep €100 for himself to use the airport lounge.
Nope. Pieter Jan tells Sebastiaan that he was his choice as mole, and now he's removed from the screen by the off-screen giant hook attached to his back.
He gone.
Is this the only time we've ever seen like a mole host say during an episode that they don't know who the mole is?
Yeah, I kind of took it as Pieter Jan's choice if he had an option. If he was one of the old moles, would have been Sebastiaan.
Yeah.
So I suspect he did know who the old moles picked, but he basically said to Sebastiaan, "Oh, if it was me who was picking it, would have been you."
Yeah. And I mean, they should let Pieter Jan pick a mole at some point.
Oh, absolutely. Whether he's in the season or not.
Just phones in.
Yeah, they should just do the first challenge at Carol's grave and just have all the old hosts just picking the mole.
That would be fantastic, to be fair. Can you imagine walking into a Northern Irish lounge and just seeing the backs of people's heads, and sitting in front of you is Angela, Pieter Jan, and Art? You'd shit yourself.
Yeah.
It'd be wonderful. Not the shitting yourself literally, kind of shitting yourself emotionally would be wonderful. Having visible diarrhea kind of leads us back to the Belkier episode we recorded yesterday. There's only room for one episode where people fling shit about in this week, and it's going to be the Belkier one rather than this one.
It would feel wonderful.
You can tell the quality of the episodes we're watching is a little bit potato, because like when they were doing the exit interview, I sort of was freeze framing to work out what was in the montage of the little clips of Sebastiaan. One of them I had to go and track down like a decent quality version of this episode just to make sure they hadn't snuck a shot of Anik in just by mistake.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see the episode quality that Marika's been able to source over the last 10 years. This is the last one, I think, where it is really dog shit quality. I think the rest of them are all HD, thankfully.
Yeah.
Because it's certainly an interesting experience rewatching a season where you do have to do the Ken Jeong meme of holding a magnifying glass up to see the episodes. And yeah, he gets a proper montage at that. He gets a long goodbye and a long montage. Do you want to eulogize him? He's the first big casualty of the season, I guess.
He wasn't the most helpful for the group. I don't know exactly what he was hoping to accomplish by temporarily removing almost 6,000 euros from the pot himself.
He probably just wanted to have the group suspect him, like do that, pretend to be the mole strategy.
Yeah, but 6,000 euros?
Also, we can't forget that he was the one who moved Fraukie's mole book into Hans's bag.
Yeah.
He was a bit of a troll.
So Sebastiaan probably is one of the most intense players in terms of just being really, really competitive in terms of strategy, but not necessarily the brightest mind when it came to challenges or how to succeed in challenges. He didn't develop the best strategies there. And in the episode, Anik and Vivienne said their strategy was to trick Sebastiaan to putting questions on Vivienne. So the obvious question that comes up is, did he put down Vivienne as a suspect on the quiz?
I would love to know how he got the missing money through security at Heathrow without anyone noticing.
I presume it was actually in his bag and he just relocated it for that day. Because there is not a chance that he spent 3 or 4 days with a sock full of fake money in his underwear without anyone spotting it, I think.
No. You don't want a suspicious package in your package.
No.
Unless you're Matt Barr.
I must say, I always remembered him and Dennis being a lot more of a visible pair in the season than they end up being on this rewatch. You get a little taste of it in this episode.
Yeah. The only real time that you get it aside from this is the pinball challenge.
Yeah. I always remembered them being a proper duo in this season, and they're kind of not.
Yeah, I think it's more they're both sort of very similar, like type A personalities, and then because of that, and then you combine with quieter people like Anik and Fraukia and Hans, that I think they get a lot of the airtime. So it's you sort of focusing in on those two, and then there's like a little bit of airtime for like the more like not boring people, but like more straight laced people like Vivienne, or more like comic relief people like John. Where I think these two, Sebastiaan and Dennis, are probably the two people they were pretty much forced to build the season around because of the way it sort of panned out.
Yeah.
But he is a big loss, but it's going to be interesting to sort of see how like the dynamics develop without that much of the airtime being forced to, deal with Sebastiaan's bullshit.
And now he gone.
Yeah.
So next time, there's spelunking, John goes shopping, restaurant patrons are served, and John goes floating in the Dead Sea.
I love that John excitedly yells France in the middle of a supermarket like he's an Amazing Race producer.
Prepare yourself, Saunders, because you get another iconic, memorable challenge of the season with the shopping challenge next week.
Supermarket sweep?
Basically, like we made a joke last week about, they do all these really cool challenges in Jordan and they also go to a supermarket. But the supermarket is genuinely a very fun challenge.
It's a fun challenge. It's also utter horseshit.
Yeah.
So, final 2 questions, Mr. Saunders. Who do you suspect and who's going home next week?
Let's see. So my suspect list: Anik, Rick, then my secret Flemish contestant Vivienne, and then Dennis, then Mr. Bean, and then I put Sebastiaan at the bottom of my suspect list, but that's because I just want to make a John Sebastiaan pun in my list because that's the guy who wrote the theme song to Welcome Back, Kotter.
Huh. I was wondering what that reference was.
And who's going home?
Who gone? Who will be gone? Let's see. I don't know. Vivienne? Let's say Vivienne.
Interesting.
You think we'll finally get the secret Flemish out then?
Yeah. The Flemish will be flushed.
Anything else you want to say about this episode?
It good.
Yeah. It was fun after the first 10 minutes or so. Even the first 10 minutes was sort of interesting.
Got to see Angela projected on a big screen out of nowhere. I was not expecting that.
It's one of the rare cases where episode 6 in the Vidum season is very good.
Yeah. The first challenge, I get why they did it, but they never do something like that again.
No.
Which is interesting.
Like, the next closest we really get is the monastery challenge in Dominican Republic, and then after that they never do it again because of everything that went wrong.
Yeah. So, Thank you for listening to our Viestamol 2009 recap. We'll be back next week to continue the hunt for an older mullet in Northern Ireland and Jordan. Don't forget, you can contact us on pretty much every social media platform that isn't TikTok, where we are RTV Warriors, or you can email us at contact@rtvwarriors.com. You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/RTV Warriors and get early access to the rest of the episodes of this season. Thank you as always to Marika for the subtitles, and we'll see you next week.
Peace out and just chill till the next flavoring.
I'd let Ben-Hur ride me.